It's been nearly 6 months since Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished from their quiet home in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. Two small children who should be playing in their yard. Instead, their names are whispered in prayer circles, on posters, and tonight, in candlelight. The community that raised them gathered again, refusing to let their faces fade into silence. On what should have been Jack's 5th birthday, neighbors, family, and friends stood outside the Stellarton RCMP detachment under a pink and blue sky. The chill in the air couldn't compare to the ache in their voices. A soft song played, candles flickered, and a pile of stuffed animals grew at the base of the memorial, a mountain built from love, grief, and unanswered questions. Haley Ferdinand, the children's aunt, wiped away tears as she spoke. You wake up and go to sleep with the same thing on your mind. You just want the answers, and we have nothing. Her voice cracked, but her message cut through the night. Around her, the crowd nodded, united in heartbreak and determination. For 6 months, Nova Scotia's searches have combed fields, forests, and rivers. But as each day passes without news, it's the community's hope that keeps the story alive. That hope burned brightly at this vigil, a light against the darkness of not knowing. Tonight wasn't about fear, it was about remembering, and refusing to give up. Jack's stepfather, Daniel Martel, stood among them. I wish I was there for his 5th birthday, he said quietly. But at least we have everyone here together. That's what matters. Nearby, the children's grandmother, Belinda Gray, read a poem through trembling hands, whispering, "Wherever they are, I hope they know they're loved." Even the RCMP officers, who have searched for months, came off duty, volunteering their time. Staff SGT, Curtis McKinnon spoke softly to the crowd. We're a small-knit community. We see the memorial every day. And we care. His words reminded everyone that behind the uniforms are human hearts, also waiting for answers. As winter approaches, organizers said the memorial outside the RCMP detachment will soon move indoors. But this gathering proved something powerful. The love for Lilly and Jack won't move, won't fade, and won't stop. Each flicker of candlelight was a promise that this story won't be forgotten. This is True Child Cases. If you believe the search for truth must continue, for Lilly, for Jack, and for every missing child, stay with us. Every voice, every share, every question keeps hope alive. Because somewhere in the quiet of Nova Scotia, someone still knows what happened. And tonight, the candles are still burning for answers. Under the dim glow of streetlights in Stellarton, Nova Scotia, a small group gathered, parents, friends, and strangers bound by one heartbreaking connection to children who never came home. It was quiet, except for the wind and the gentle hum of a song playing from someone's phone. Every note felt like a whisper to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. The vigil began at 7 o'clock, just as the last light of the day faded behind the hills. Pink and blue streaks brushed across the sky, colors that reminded everyone of the 2 little siblings missing since May 2nd. That night marked 6 long months without answers, and what would have been Jack's 5th birthday. A row of candles lined the sidewalk outside the Stellarton RCMP detachment. Beside them, a growing pile of stuffed animals, children's drawings, and handwritten letters formed a small shrine. Someone had placed 2 cupcakes at the center, one with 5 candles, one with 6, for the birthdays they never got to celebrate together. Lilly and Jack Sullivan were reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station, a quiet rural community in Pictou County. On that day in May, everything changed. Search teams, helicopters, and volunteers spent weeks scouring woods and rivers. But despite the largest search effort the area had ever seen, not a single confirmed trace was found. Now, 6 months later, the community's grief hasn't faded. It's only become quieter, deeper. You wake up and you go to sleep with the same thing on your mind, said their aunt, Haley Ferdinand, holding a framed photo of the children. You just want the answers, and we have nothing. The crowd fell still as her words echoed in the cold air. For many, this vigil was more than a ceremony. It was a way to keep the case alive, to remind the world that 2 children are still missing, and that silence can't mean surrender. Every candle represented a promise not to stop searching, not to stop asking questions, and not to let the names Lilly and Jack disappear from memory. Among the group stood Belinda Gray, the children's grandmother. Her hands trembled as she unfolded a small piece of paper, a poem she had written for them. Wherever you are, I hope you know you're loved, she read. Not give up, not forget. Keep searching. Keep pushing for answers. Her voice broke halfway through, but the crowd softly applauded. For many families, 6 months of waiting would feel unbearable. But for the Sullivans, it's become a daily fight to stay visible, to keep hope alive. Belinda said what every grandparent fears. If we stop pushing, it's gonna go away. That fear of being forgotten is what drives them to light another candle every night. Jack's stepfather, Daniel Martel, stood close to the memorial, staring at the flickering lights. I wish I was there for his 5th birthday, he said softly. But at least we have everyone together to celebrate him. His voice carried both sorrow and gratitude. This community cares. That's what's keeping us going. Behind Daniel, a small boy from the crowd quietly placed a toy truck beside the photos. No one spoke. The act said everything, the innocence of one child honoring another. Moments like these show why this case has touched so many. In towns like Stellarton, every missing child feels like everyone's child. 5 officers from the RCMP attended the vigil, off-duty, volunteering their time. Among them was Staff SGT, Curtis McKinnon, who has worked closely with the investigation. He told the gathering, "We're a small-knit community. The memorial is right outside our office. We see it every day. We care, and we're here to support you." His words brought quiet comfort. For months, rumors and speculation have swirled online, but moments like this cut through the noise. What mattered here wasn't theories, it was people standing together in shared pain and hope. For a few hours, it didn't feel like an unsolved case. It felt like a family. Candles flickered as the wind picked up. Some people wept quietly, others whispered prayers. The sound of a single guitar filled the space, a volunteer playing softly while the crowd held hands. There were no speeches about justice or blame. Only a simple message: keep searching, don't give up. The organizers later announced that the outdoor memorial, which has stood for months outside the RCMP detachment, will soon be moved indoors for the winter. We wanted to get ahead of the public before they start wondering why it's gone, said community member Kent Corbett. But it's not gone, it's just moving inside, where it's safe. As people began to leave, the last candle still burned in front of the children's photos. Someone whispered, "They're still here with us." And maybe, in some way, they are in every prayer, every search, and every heart that refuses to forget. 6 months have passed, yet the questions remain frozen in time. Where are Lilly and Jack? How could 2 children vanish without a trace? And what happened on that quiet afternoon in Lansdowne Station that no one seems able to explain? In part 2, we'll go back to the beginning, to the day it all started. To understand why this vigil mattered so deeply, you have to go back to May 2nd, 2025, the day everything changed. Lansdowne Station, a quiet rural stretch in Pictou County, isn't the kind of place where children just disappear. Everyone knows everyone, doors are left unlocked. But that Friday afternoon, something broke that sense of safety forever. RCMP were called to the Sullivan home after reports that 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack were missing. It was late in the day. Their mother said she had been inside briefly when she noticed the backyard was empty. Within minutes, neighbors were out searching, calling the children's names. But there was only silence and an open gate leading to the woods. The initial response was immediate. Search and rescue teams arrived before sunset, and a full-scale operation began that night. Drones, K-9 units, and volunteers combed through forest trails, ponds, and nearby fields. For a moment, everyone believed they'd be found by morning. After all, they were just kids. They couldn't have gone far. But morning came, and there was still nothing. By the second day, hundreds joined the search, firefighters, soldiers, and civilians, moving in coordinated lines through 95 square kilometers of terrain. They found small footprints, but no proof they belonged to Lilly or Jack. No clothing, no items, no trail to follow. The community's hope started turning into disbelief. Experienced searches said the conditions were tough but manageable. If the children were nearby, they should have been located. That's when whispers began, theories, suspicions, the kind of questions no one wants to ask but can't avoid. How did 2 kids vanish completely? Investigators retraced every possible lead. They searched the property multiple times, the surrounding pipelines, and intersecting trails. Cadaver dogs were brought in but detected no scent of human remains. It was as if the children had simply disappeared. No signs of abduction, no evidence of foul play, just absence. The RCMP later confirmed they reviewed hours of surveillance footage from nearby roads and properties. No vehicles were seen coming or going that matched the timeline. No strangers, no movement. For many, that revelation deepened the mystery. Witnesses said they heard a car that night, yet police found no proof one existed. As the weeks stretched on, the Sullivan case became one of the most haunting disappearances in Nova Scotia's history. Public interest soared, then slowly faded as no new information surfaced. But for the family, time didn't dull anything. The search never stopped in their minds, it just grew quieter, lonelier. Haley Ferdinand, the children's aunt, began organizing awareness events, small community walks, poster campaigns, and now the candlelight vigil. We can't let people forget, she said in an earlier interview. Because once people stop talking about it, the chances of getting answers go down. That's been her mission ever since. At one point, our CMP spokesperson said they had received hundreds of tips, ranging from credible leads to pure speculation. Each was checked, but none led anywhere. They reminded the public that there was no evidence suggesting the children were harmed. Still, with every passing month, hope battled against reality. For the families involved, the hardest part hasn't been the waiting, it's the not knowing. Belinda Gray, the grandmother, once said, "You try to imagine every possibility, but it never makes sense. One moment they're playing, and the next, they're just gone." Those words have haunted Nova Scotia since. Meanwhile, stepfather Daniel Martel remained visible but measured. He joined search efforts, attended press briefings, and later faced online scrutiny, something almost inevitable in high-profile missing person cases. He's denied any wrongdoing and continues to appear publicly, especially at events like the Vigil, emphasizing unity over division. Local residents say this case has changed the entire community. Parents hold their kids closer. Strangers stop each other in grocery stores to ask if there's any news. Posters of Lilly and Jack still hang in post offices, restaurants, even car windows. In Stellarton, people say the children have become a symbol of loss, but also of hope. Our CMP officers, including Staff SGT, Curtis McKinnon, have been clear that the file remains open. Investigators continue to follow leads quietly behind the scenes. But no public updates have been released in recent months. "We want to find them as much as anyone," McKinnon said. "We see their faces every day when we walk into the office." Back at the Vigil, that commitment seemed to mean something. For a few hours, police, family, and community stood side by side, not as investigators and civilians, but as people united by the same ache. The search might be paused, but emotionally, no one here has stopped looking. As the final candles burned low, one attendee whispered, "They're somewhere." Someone knows. The sentence hung in the air, not an accusation, but a truth too heavy to ignore. Because someone, somewhere, saw something. And until that person speaks, the Sullivan family will never have peace. This is what keeps cases like this alive, the refusal to accept silence as the end. Every vigil, every interview, every mention keeps pressure on the mystery. And sometimes, that's how answers finally surface, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through a community that refuses to stop caring. Half a year after their disappearance, the investigation stands at a crossroads. No remains, no sightings, no closure. In Part 3, we'll look at the lingering inconsistencies, the night sounds, the car that never appeared, and why the RCMP's silence has only deepened public suspicion. 6 months. That's how long it's been since Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished from their rural Nova Scotia home, and still, the case stands suspended between hope and disbelief. With no confirmed evidence, no suspects, and no public updates, the silence has become its own kind of answer. But in Stellarton, that silence is only raising more questions. The first question, the sounds that witnesses reported that night. Several locals told RCMP they heard a vehicle moving along the rural road near Lansdowne Station. Some said it was just before midnight, others much earlier. Yet police later confirmed they reviewed all available surveillance footage in the area and found nothing. No headlights, no movement. So how could a car be heard but not seen? Was it a misremembered sound, an echo, or something beyond the camera's range? Investigators haven't offered an explanation, and for many in the community, that single detail feels like a missing puzzle piece, the kind that could change everything. Then there's the matter of time. Early reports placed the children outside in the late afternoon. But later, conflicting statements emerged about who saw them last and when. Those inconsistencies might seem small, but in missing person investigations, even an hour can mean the difference between a lead and a dead end. The RCMP has said little about those discrepancies, citing the ongoing investigation. But behind closed doors, residents wonder, were Lilly and Jack ever seen by anyone other than their family that day? Was the timeline confirmed independently? The lack of clarity has left room for speculation, and speculation fills every void. Online, true crime followers began dissecting every photo, every interview. Some noticed the stepfather, Daniel Martel, appeared tense in early press conferences. Others claimed his statements shifted slightly over time. But police have never named him, or anyone else, as a suspect. In fact, they've repeatedly said no one has been ruled out or officially in. In a case like this, that phrase, "no one ruled out," can mean many things. It could reflect caution or a lack of evidence. But to families, it feels like a shadow over everyone close to the children. Daniel has since said he understands the public suspicion, but insists he has nothing to hide. "I wish I was there that day," he once said. "I'd do anything to change it." Others point to the phone data and deleted apps, small but haunting details uncovered in the weeks after the disappearance. A USB drive belonging to Malehya, the children's mother, reportedly contained fragments of deleted data, including a messaging app no longer active. Investigators haven't confirmed its relevance, but for many, it remains one of the strangest loose ends. Through all of this, the RCMP's communication strategy has stayed the same: careful, factual, limited. Press updates have slowed, and interviews with family members are now rare. When reporters ask about progress, officers repeat the same line: the investigation remains active. For a public desperate for movement, that repetition feels like a wall. But those who've studied similar cases say silence doesn't always mean inaction. Sometimes, it means investigators are holding details back to verify confessions, to protect evidence, or to avoid contaminating potential testimony. Still, after half a year, patience is thin. People want something, anything, to show the search hasn't ended. The Vigil proved that the community's will hasn't faded. Yet even there, under candlelight, the weight of uncertainty lingered. Parents looked down at their children, clutching them closer. RCMP officers stood quietly, aware that every kind word couldn't erase the question behind every act. Do you know more than you're saying? Inside the investigation, sources describe a case with no physical anchor, no witness to a crime. Nobody. No confirmed sighting after May 2nd. In most missing child cases, something, a piece of clothing, a footprint, a scent eventually emerges. Here, there's only a record of what's been searched and what hasn't produced answers. Even technology hasn't cracked it. Drone footage, GPS tracks, and digital forensics all point to nothing unusual. The children's devices, if they had any, yielded no signals. And nearby cell towers registered no out-of-place pings. It's as though the case exists in a gap between data, too little to follow, too strange to dismiss. Some locals believe the answer lies beyond the immediate area, that maybe Lilly and Jack were taken elsewhere, or by someone familiar enough to avoid suspicion. Others think it was a tragic accident somehow hidden by time and terrain. But no evidence has ever supported either scenario fully. Every theory circles back to the same point: uncertainty. That uncertainty now defines the Sullivan case. It's what keeps reporters returning, keeps family members pleading, and keeps ordinary people lighting candles months later. As one neighbor put it, you can't stop thinking about them. Every time you see a child that age, you wonder, where are they now? RCMP staff SGT McKinnon recently reaffirmed that investigators remain committed. "We see their photos every morning when we walk into the detachment," he said. This case is not forgotten. Those words matter, but to families like the Sullivans, words are no substitute for discovery. Hope without progress is a painful balance. At the edge of the memorial, the final candle still burns. Its flame bends in the wind but never goes out, much like this community's resolve. Each flicker represents a single truth. They will not stop asking questions until someone, somewhere, speaks. Because silence might protect secrets, but it can't erase to missing children.
So to be clear,
6 months
it's
after
currently
Lilly
not
and
a
Jack
criminal
vanished,
investigation.
there are no arrests, no breakthroughs, and no closure, only a promise made in candlelight. Keep searching, keep pushing, keep believing. In the next segment, we return to the heart of that promise.
The news
Why even
release
after all this
today
time,
mentioned
people still
you're
whisper,
exploring
you
all
just want the answers.
possibilities. I think a lot of people are wondering what the possibilities
By the time the
are
candles
here.
burned down to stubs, Stellarton had gone quiet again.
About
The crowd had thinned, the
our
songs had
investigative
ended,
theories in our
but the
direction,
feeling
but
lingered.
we,
That sense that something
part
unfinished
of the
still
world
hung in the
being,
air. The
investigators
faces
beyond
of Lilly
bias,
and
the
Jack
critical
shone
information
faintly
fact,
from
make
framed
decisions based on
photos
that. So
beneath
we
the
continue to do
RCMP
that, and
sign,
continue to do that
illuminated
until we
by
have
the
answers
last
we
bits
need
of
to
wax
bring
light.
back to Lily
For the
home.
What would
family,
you say
this night was
to
more than
members of the
remembrance.
public,
It was
members of the
resistance,
family
a way of
who
saying,
really
we are still here.
want
Because every missing
answers?
child case reaches a point where the world begins to
What I
move
would say
on.
to them is that we
Headlines
are
fade,
grinding as hard as we
investigators
can to get
rotate,
those answers
and the
for them.
story
We
risks
want
being
the
buried
answers
by
as much
newer
as everyone
tragedies.
else.
But not this
We're-
one. Not
we're
yet.
family people.
Haley
We have children,
Ferdinand,
we have
their
families,
aunt,
we're
has made that her
uncles,
vow.
grandparents, we're
She's
everything,
become the
not
voice for Lily and Jack when they no
we,
longer have one.
we,
She organizes
we
every
have the
vigil,
same connections
prints
to our
every poster,
communities and our
and speaks to
families as
every
everyone else,
reporter
and we
willing to
understand
listen.
the
Her message
concern. We
never
are concerned,
changes.
and we are,
We just want the answers. Simple, honest,
working hard
unrelenting.
to gather
To
all
her,
the information
this
that
fight
we
isn't
can
about blame.
to get the
It's about
answers to bring Jack
visibility.
and Lily home, and
If
we
we
won't
let
stop.
the world forget, she once
Is there
said,
anything else
then
you'd
it's
like
like
to add?
losing them twice. That
I
thought
would like
terrifies
to,
her.
thank
So she
the
keeps
public
going, candle
for
by
the
candle,
cooperation
story
and
by
information
story,
they have
keeping their
provided.
names alive in a province where
I
winter
would
often
like to,
silences everything. The
just,
community has followed her
identify
lead.
if anybody
Every
does
few
have
weeks,
any
someone leaves
further
a new toy at the
information
Stellarton
or,
Memorial. A stuffed bear,
facts or
a
evidence or
hand-drawn
anything
card,
that they
a
feel
tiny
could
pair of
assist
rain
us
boots
in
wrapped
locating
in
Jack
ribbon.
and Lily,
Each
please
item
call
tells
us,
the same
and we'll
story.
follow up
You are
and
still
gather that
loved.
information and
People
follow
who
up.
never met
So,
the Sullivans still call
but
this
we do
case
appreciate
personal
that.
because it
And
could
I
have
would
been
like to say
anyone's
that,
children.
you know,
Behind the scenes,
this is a very
RCMP
tough time
investigators
for
continue to
the
work
public
the
at
file.
large.
They said that
the
dozens of search
investigators, but
areas were
especially
revisited
the
throughout
family.
the summer and early fall, with
I
new
can't
mapping
imagine
technology and
what they
ground-penetrating
must be going through.
radar. None of those efforts have turned up evidence. But the fact that they're still searching, months later, says something about persistence. That persistence mirrors
It's
the
the first
community's
vigil, and I would
fate.
definitely not miss this
Every
one. Definitely
unanswered
not on
question
Jack's
pushes
birthday.
another person to stay
It's been an
involved,
important
from
date
volunteers
for
who distribute
everybody
flyers
over the
to
last 6
strangers who
months.
follow the
I
updates
wouldn't miss this
online.
for the world.
It's that
Brooks
collective
Murray
refusal
did
to give
not
up that
attend the
keeps the
vigil.
Sullivan
Her
case alive
family
in
says she
Canada's
quietly
consciousness.
marked Jack's
And yet,
birthday
for
with her
those
mother,
closest to the
and
story,
gifts from the
hope
vigil
comes
would be
with
delivered
exhaustion.
to her.
The family's
children's
lives are
paternal
split in
grandmother,
two
Belinda
before
Gray,
May 2nd and
says she
after.
appreciates
Simple
the
moments,
outpouring of
like
support.
hearing a child laugh
People
in a
have
grocery store,
beautiful
can
hearts,
break them without warning.
and I know if we
As
give
Haley
them a
said during the
chance,
vigil,
everybody
you
can
wake
help.
up and it hits you all over again.
Everybody
You
can
just
help,
want
and
them
everybody
home.
wants
The
to
media
help.
has tried to keep the focus respectful,
I think this
but
is
every story
beautiful.
walks a fine line
Angela
between
McIver, CBC
compassion
News,
and intrusion.
Stellarton.
For every person lighting candles, there's another online accusing, guessing, or speculating. The internet's hunger for mystery can sometimes eclipse the human pain underneath. That's the cruel side of every missing child case. Still, coverage matters. Each new headline brings renewed awareness, and awareness brings leads. Some of the most critical tips in Canadian cold cases have come months, even years, after the fact. That's why videos like this exist, not to sensationalize, but to keep the question alive long enough for truth to surface. In Stellarton, a local artist recently painted a mural of two children walking hand in hand through a forest trail. Beneath them, the words, "Never forgotten." It's not just art, it's a promise. A visual reminder that Lily and Jack are still part of this community's heartbeat, even if their footsteps have vanished. For investigators, the search is data and evidence. For the family, it's memories and emotion. But somewhere between those two worlds lies the truth. Someone, somewhere, knows what happened. Maybe they've stayed silent out of fear, guilt, or confusion. But the hope here, the prayer whispered at every vigil, is that one day, they'll finally speak. Until that day, Stellarton will keep gathering. They'll light their candles again when spring returns. They'll tell new volunteers the story of the two missing children who changed a town forever. And in that act of remembrance, the Sullivans' names will keep echoing through every corner of Nova Scotia. Because in the end, this case isn't only about mystery. It's about community, about people who refuse to let tragedy become silence. It's about the power of persistence, of mothers, aunts, grandparents, and neighbors who stand together under cold skies, whispering the same plea: don't let them be forgotten. At the RCMP detachment, officers still pass the memorial every morning. Some pause for a moment before walking inside. They don't say much. They don't have to. The photos of Lilly and Jack stare back quietly, a reminder that the work isn't done, that the answers still lie somewhere out there, waiting to be uncovered. And so, as the candles dim and the air grows colder, the town of Stellarton makes the same vow once again: to keep searching, to keep questioning, and to never stop believing that the truth, however long it takes, will one day come home. For 6 months, this community has carried the same ache, a weight made heavier by silence, yet lightened by faith. The vigil may be over, but its message is not. Somewhere beyond the quiet roads and wooded trails of Lansdowne Station, there are answers. And when they finally surface, the candles will burn bright again, not for mourning, but for truth. 6 months, that's how long these candles have burned. For Lilly and Jack Sullivan, for their family, and for a community that refuses to forget. Each flame tonight wasn't just a symbol, it was a message to the darkness: we're still here. We're still waiting, because when two children vanish without a trace, silence should never be the final word. Their Aunt Haley said it best: you wake up and you go to sleep with the same thing on your mind. You just want the answers. And maybe that's why stories like this matter, because sometimes the answers only come when enough people start asking the same question, together, over and over, until someone finally breaks the silence. The Sullivan case isn't just another mystery. It's a reminder of how fragile safety can be, and how powerful community becomes when it refuses to turn away. If you're watching this from across the world, remember, awareness isn't distance. Every share, every comment, every moment you spend learning their story keeps that light alive. So tonight, before this video fades to black, take one small action that matters. Share this story, leave a candle emoji in the comments, or simply say their names, Lilly and Jack Sullivan, so the world keeps hearing them. Because the search for truth begins with remembering. This is True Child Cases, where every episode brings voice to the stories that should never be forgotten. If you believe silence should never win, and every missing child deserves to be found, subscribe now. Tap the bell, stay with us, and help keep their stories alive, because somewhere out there, someone knows, and one day, the truth will speak.